Hi, Parkway Manor. It's Friday, April 24th. Welcome back to more of The Storm, written by Cynthia Rylant. We've met two characters so far. We have Pandora, the cat. Remember, she's in charge of the lighthouse. And we have Sebold, who is a dog, and he's a sailor. And if you remember, sadly, Sebold's ship, the Adventure, was in a storm, and he ended up washing onto the coast, where, thank goodness, Pandora found him and took him into her home and kind of helped him get better. And sadly, he did break his leg, so he's kind of recovering from his leg injury. But he continues to live with Pandora while she kind of goes about her business, and he starts to try to fix his boat the best he can. Now, he stayed with her through the summer, and it's now September. Yesterday when we read, let me go back a little bit. But one day in early September, just as the geese and the mallards and the warblers were beginning to fly overhead on their long journey south, Sebold was awakened to exactly what that enormous lighthouse was meant to do, and to just who was prepared to do it. Chapter 5, The Storm. It was much too early in the season, Pandora thought, for a storm to blow in. It was the season for fog, yes, but for serious ocean storms? Those were due much later in the fall. Then why, she wondered, one afternoon in early September as she gathered tomatoes off the vines, why was the sky growing so black? Why was the air so cold? Why were gulls circling higher and higher, their cries growing more and more frantic? Because a sky above a sea loves unpredictability. It loves surprise. This day it clearly intended to. Sebold and Pandora battened down his boat, secured the shutters over the cottage windows, and set to building a fire in the kitchen stove. "Oh, how cold it is," said Sebold, "and yesterday was so warm." "The sea is bringing in a different air," said Pandora, "one, I believe, that is full of danger. I must go up to the lantern room and attend to the light." Sebold looked at his still splinted leg in frustration. "Oh, I have to get up there to help you," he said. "No, no," said Pandora. "Injury to your leg now will set you back a month or more of healing. Just keep the fire going while I work." And while Sebold fed the fire in the kitchen and kept a pot of tea hot and ready for them both, Pandora climbed up to the lantern room. She trimmed the great lamp's wicks and lit them. She checked the kerosene vessel. She cleaned the storm panes. Then she climbed down to the watch room. Just around supper time, an enormous fog bank began rolling in. High in her tower, Pandora watched it spread toward land like creeping cotton. And she began to ring the bells and sound the horn that would guide smaller boats to shore, giving them escape from the storm that was surely about to hit. Down in the kitchen, Sebold fretted. He listened to the bells and the horn. "Oh, I could be doing that," he thought. "I could be helping." But he had to sit there by the fire and wait. He felt miserable. Over the next few hours, the wind built to an astonishing speed, and its gusts rocked the tower that Pandora worked in. She was undaunted. It was nightfall now, and this was a very bad storm for any ship at sea. Fog, lightning, lashing rain, hard wind, all could lead a ship onto the rocks and sink her. Pandora worked in the watchroom, sounding the horn again and again. Above her, the great light kept its strong beams shining out upon the water. She was cold. She'd had no time to dress warmly or carry wood to the watchroom stove. But she could not stop to remedy this. It was a terrible storm, and she knew what a terrible storm could do. In the kitchen, Sebold sat at the window and watched the great light shine and listened to the warning horn. Now we have Sebold. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. How did Pandora do it? Where did she find the strength? He was only tending the kitchen fire, and already he was getting tired. Finally, sleep got the better of him. The storm raged on without his witness. Bright sun shining into the kitchen woke Sebold up the next morning. He had lain beside the stove all night. Where was Pandora? He looked out the window, and there she was, far out near the edge of a cliff, with a shawl wrapped around her shoulders and her paw in the air waving. Off in the water, barely a spot on the horizon, was a sailing ship, at rest and safe. She saved them, thought Sebold. He just watched his friend in wonder. Chapter 6. Purpose. Sebold had planned to sail away by October's end, before the hard winter storms began, before the ice and wind. He was a sailing dog. The sea was his home. He knew this, and Pandora knew this, and they both were prepared for the sorrowful goodbye. But destiny had other plans. Sebold's boat did not come together as quickly as he had hoped. Small essential pieces were still missing and had to be made by hand. This would take time. It would take a long spring and a long summer, and perhaps an entire fall as well. Sebold was resourceful, but he could not invent time, and his leg was very slow in healing. It had been a bad break, and in spite of Pandora's marvelous herbs and capable splinting, his leg was weak. Sebold still walked with the aid of a stick. Thus, as the wind grew crisper and harder, and the sky filled with birds going away, Sebold stood at the edge of the shore and realized that this winter he would not be able to sail. He thought that he would be despondent. He thought that he would be depressed. But he wasn't. Something had happened to him as he watched the noble efforts of Pandora save others, to serve a purpose higher than herself. Sebold had been inspired, and he thought that perhaps, at least for one winter, he might also make his life count for something. So he asked Pandora if he might stay on until spring. And of course, she said yes. It had been her secret wish. Together they gathered wood for winter fires and food for winter sustenance. And Sebold was finally able to climb all the way up to the great lamp in the lighthouse. He was astonished seeing it for the first time. "Oh, it is magnificent," he said to Pandora. "It is a wonder." Sebold and Pandora polished the brass fittings of the great lamp. They disassembled and cleaned the lanterns. They replaced worn wicks. Being in the lantern room thrilled Sebold as much as even the finest sailing day, though he would not admit that to Pandora. And in the evenings, as Pandora knit warm caps and mittens and socks for them both, and as Sebold fashioned tools from driftwood, they talked. "I am astonished," said Sebold one night, "that I am not land sick by this time. I have never been able to stay ashore so long without feeling like my legs were turning to stone." Pandora smiled and shifted the cap that she was knitting for him. "I hope you will not be too unhappy with this lonely lighthouse life," she said. "Oh, no," said Sebold. "I am quite looking forward to it. I'm hoping that I will be useful." Here's a picture of the two of them in the lighthouse. Whoops. Sorry about that, everybody. Gosh, I hope you've been able to see all these pictures. I should have checked earlier. "And you shall be," said Pandora. "You will help me." "I hope we will meet new friends," said Sebold, as the days go by. "Even if they are only passing through, I should like very much to know a whale." "Oh, the sea is full of surprises," said Pandora. "New friends among them." She looked at Sebold with a twinkle. "I should know," she said. "In spring," said Sebold, "before I finish the work on adventure, I will build a gazebo at the top of the Daisy Hill, and from there we may sit and see what comes our way." "Oh," answered Pandora, "many wonderful things. There shall be many wonderful things." And they both felt wonderfully warm. Okay, got it right this time. And that is the end of chapter 6, boys and girls. Tune in on Monday where we'll continue reading the storm. And our next chapter is chapter 7 called The Rescue. I hope you all have a great weekend with lots of family fun and hopefully relaxing and taking a break from work. Bye, everybody. Can't wait to see you Monday.